Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, and we will begin a 3 to 5 part series that looks directly at child rearing. So the entire series is focused on one single topic, child rearing. Today we will focus on hope and will development. Hopefully on Tuesday we will look at the topic of purpose and competence development. Wednesday, we will look at fidelity and love development. And the reason I say it 3 to 5 sessions is because we may need to spread this out over 2 weeks' time period. But if we're able to progress as planned, then we can get in the 4th topic series of care and wisdom and the 5th topic series of preparing children to exit from the child rearing years into young adulthood. But we're not going to rush the topic because it is really a critical topic to understand and to embrace as we develop our children for adulthood. Let's begin our series by looking at the term development. What does it really mean to develop a child or to help a child mature and to grow? The term develop simply means to define the process that leads to one's ability to differentiate between what is mature and immature, what is acceptable behavior and what is unacceptable behavior, what is proper behavior for a certain age group, and what is considered inappropriate developmentally for a certain age group. So when we look at the first phase that really encompasses from birth to 1 year of age, we're looking at the foundation through which a child grows intelligently. We're looking at the foundation by which a child becomes more conscientious of their thinking. We're looking at the foundation of how a child learns proper problem solving, how a child becomes properly aware of their sexuality early in life. And we're looking at proper social awareness early in life. And as children become more aware of who they are intellectually, in their thinking, in their abilities, even in their sexual awareness, then they will move into more proper usages of what we would call normal psychosocial skills. What happens when there's a failure to develop these stages of growth? Failure simply means it is not fully developed in one arena, and if that arena is not fully developed as scheduled, 0 to 1 year old or 1 year old to 3 year old, then at some point for that child to really function correctly at the next stage of expected growth, somehow that child must be taught to embrace proper views of the previous stages that were not learned adequately. Every stage of individual development has 2 possible results, which are opposites one to the other. So when we look at our first phase, we're looking at how you develop the hope within the child, but you're also going to see if hope is not cultivated correctly, then you're nurturing the potential for trust versus mistrust. Although an individual may not complete a given developmental expectation during the stage expected, completion is possible at a later state. I can't emphasize that enough. Simply because something is not completed at 0 to 1 or 1 to 3 does not mean necessarily that the child or the young adult is going to be stunted in their emotional development for the rest of their life. Because at any stage, we can go back and help the child, or maybe even the young adult, fill in the voids that have been missed. Now remember last week's series where we talked about disputing certain results. And when we dispute, we're looking at the belief system. And when we dispute the belief system, then we can modify the consequences. But as we dispute the beliefs, we have to modify the actions first. And if we change the actions, then we change the consequences. So basically what we're saying is, if something is missed along the way developmentally, for the most part, we can go back if opportunity presents itself and help a young adult or help a young child fill in those blanks. So in stage 1, that's where hope is formulated. Hope is driven by a person's ability to trust. Trust is to a larger degree nurtured by consistency in a child's life from birth to 1 year of age. Every parent owes it to their child to be consistent and available and the primary care provider for that child. And whenever that is in place in a wholesome way, you are helping to cultivate hope. Not hope that you have for the child, but you're developing a spirit of optimism in the child. The child is hopeful of their future and hopeful of their ability to be successful. And they learn to trust because they've learned very early that the adult care providers are going to be consistent in their lives. If hope is not properly formulated, children will grow up fearing people, having greater anxiety, and struggling to trust anyone in a world filled with change and uncertainties. And I'm sure you can agree, we live in an ever-changing world. So the stabilizer for children in an ever-changing world is the trust that they learn to embrace in the home nurturing environment. Now, when you move away from the trust environment into stage 2, you're looking at autonomy versus shame. That's where the willpower is developed in the child. Willpower is that component of a person that drives autonomy of a healthy feeling regarding the child's ability to survive in the world that's changing around them. In other words, the child feels good that they can accomplish, and the child feels good that they are able to make certain achievements. Autonomy is the primary development of a child between 1 and 3 years old, where that child begins to walk and they feel independent. They begin moving more toward their own toys. They feel more independent. The child is now able to move around more independently in the home and in the yard. They're more selective of their own food, and even they're more selective in having input in what they would want to wear. They'll point and shake their head yes, or they'll point and shake their head no, or they're more audible, and they will say they would prefer certain things. Now, if willpower or autonomy is overly criticized, too closely controlled, or not empowered, if you over-criticize that child and you do not empower that child to try, they will become less likely to develop self-esteem or an inner ability or an inner will to accomplish a task, which will lead to inferiority and shame feelings with doubt about their own self-worth. Now, in the Bible, in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, and verse number 4, the Bible is real clear. It says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord." That term provoke simply means do not arouse that child up to a spirit of anger. It is the parent's responsibility. And we hope to help parents embrace the spirit of developing their child to exit the home. I'll see you back in class again tomorrow. Don't be late and don't skip class.